Alright guys, today in this session we're going to take a look at 7.7% fractions and decimals. So just converting easily between all three forms of the same number. So almost like we're naming the same person in three different ways, like Bob, Bobby, and Robert. Okay? So it's the same exact number. We're just going to convert it between all three forms, because sometimes you want to use the percent form, sometimes you need the fraction form, and sometimes you'd rather have the decimal form. Okay? And as a 7th and 8th grade material, you should be able to convert easily between all three forms. Alright? Here we go. Our first situation is when you need to change a percent into a decimal. Okay? Now, technically, all you're doing here is dividing by 100. Okay? Divide by 100. And so, for example, if we have our percent here, 35%, that's 3,500, so we tie both. We get 35 divided by 100. And of course, 100 doesn't go into 35, so you add a decimal point in zeros. And then do your division like it's 100 into 350. And you do your math there. And we come up with the decimal, 0.35. Okay? Now, the shortcut to all of this is that every time, no matter what you're doing, every time you divide by 100, it moves the decimal place 2 spaces to the left. So any number you want to divide by 100, you're just going to move that decimal point 2 spaces up. Because if you look at it, we had 35 and then we had 0.35. So all you have to do is move them 2 spaces to the left. And you really don't have to do that division by 100 because it'll always turn out that way. You're dividing by a power of 10, so it's just moving the decimal point. Okay? So let's take a look. Once you have this copied, pause if you need to, and let's try some examples. Alright, so here's our practice. Just a couple of them. Let's look at 5%. So we could take that 5 over 100 and divide by 100, or use the shortcut. Okay? 300% and 1.2%. So let's see what we can come up with here. Alright. So our first one here. Oop, hold on there. I don't know if we put those answers in. Let's put those in. I thought we had those coming, but they're not showing up. So our first one here, you put the whole number 5 down, and then you have to move that decimal point. It's currently right there, and we need to move it 2 spaces to the left. So if you just slide 2 spaces left, 1, 2, you have to add a 0 as a placeholder, and that gets you 0.05. I know it's kind of hard to see with that green. Sorry on the color choice. So 300%. Decimal point is currently at the end, and we want to move that 2 spaces left. So we should go 1, 2, and that'll give us 3.00, or just 3. And then finally 1.2%, we already have that as a decimal, but we're going to, that's as a decimal percent. So we have to slide it 2 spaces to the left. So 1, 2, we'd have to add a 0, and that would be 0.012. Okay? So instead of doing all the division, you can actually just use the shortcut and move the decimal point 2 spaces left. Alright, now we can go to our next one. Our next situation is when we're changing decimals back into percent. So going the opposite direction. Okay? So before it was percent to decimal, now it's decimal to percent. So you might even guess, well, last time it was divide by 100. Yep, so this time we're going to multiply by 100. And you might already have your wheels turning and be thinking, oh, I need to actually just move that decimal point back the other way. And you are absolutely right. So you could just times by 100. And of course, we just talked about the shortcut here is really that you're just moving the decimal point 2 spaces right. You're going to move it the opposite direction because now you're adding on powers of 0. Okay? So if we have 0.98, you're just going to slide that 2 spaces right. And you get 17% there. So that's how that works. So here's just a couple examples for you. If you need to rewind and go back to copy that, please do so. So we have 0.4 and 0.131 and 6. So what do we come up with? Oh, we forgot those two. Haha. Let's look at those again. Okay. So pause the video and try them. Alright, so how'd you do on those? We'd slide this over 2 spaces to the right. So 1, 2, have to add a 0, and we get an answer of 40%. Okay? Same thing on the next one. It's 0.131. We want to slide it 2 spaces to the left. So that is 13.1%. And on the last one there, 6 is right here. The decimal point on any whole number, remember, is right at the end. So we got to slide that 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. We would need 2 zeros. And that makes that, oh, let me get a better color there, 600%. Okay? Alright, now here we have a special case scenario on this next one. Changing a fraction into a percent. Okay, now this is only going to be used when your denominator will not go into 100. So if you have a fraction where the denominator will not easily go into 100, then you want to use this method. Okay? We want to use this method if it will not go into 100. So, for example, look at the number 7/8. Okay? Oops. Forgot to write our steps. Here's our steps, sorry. So we want to change the actual fraction to a decimal by Tybo, and then we want to multiply by 100. Which really, every time we multiply by 100, what's our shortcut now? Yeah, you move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right. Okay? Make sure you pause and write those steps down before you move on. And here's our examples. Alright, so here's our practice that we have. We have 7/8. And I don't think we're going to use that. We're going to get rid of that there. And that is not correct. Don't even think about that. There we go. So 7 divided by 8. Tybo. Top number in. Right? Tybo. And bottom number on the outside. 8 doesn't go into 7, so add a decimal point and some zeros. And now 8 goes into 70 64 times. I'm sorry, 8 times 64. And you do the division there. And you get 0.875, which is your decimal. Which is, slide it over twice, 87.5%. Okay? So in the second example here, we have 11/8. Now that is an improper fraction. So as you might have guessed, it's like saying 11 pieces out of an 8-piece pie. It's over 100%. It's more than the whole. So you should, anytime you have an improper fraction, you should expect that you're going to get a percent over 100. Okay? It's a good indication. Make sure your answer is over 100% if it's an improper fraction. Okay? So same strategy though. We're going to Tybo. Do the division there. Add the decimal point when you need to, and zeros. And because of space there, I'll just tell you that the answer there comes out to 1.375 as a decimal. But again, we're looking for a percent, so we slide it 2 to the right, and we get 137.5%. Okay? Just one more to go. Here it is. Changing percents back into fractions. Sometimes you need to work with them in the fraction form, especially in trigonometry, so it's a good skill to have. This is pretty simple. This one I think you can do. 2 steps. You just make sure you put the percent over 100, and then simplify or reduce the problem. And that's it. Ooh, we got a little error there. I'm going to put it over 100, my mistake. It over 100, and then reduce or simplify your answer. So for example, we have 42%. Put it over 100. All percents are over 100, right? And then simplify. What goes into 42 and 100? Yeah, 2 does. So divide by 2, and there's your fraction, 21 over 50. Okay? Here's one, 185%. Same strategy. Okay? Put it over 100. Simplify. What goes into 185 and 100? 5 does. So divide by 5. And you get 37 over 20. Tybo that, and you get 1 and 17/20. Okay? Alright, so that is converting between fractions, decimals, and percents. Let's take a look at your mastery now. You want to have this ready for tomorrow so we can move on. And here's all I want you to do is convert the given number into its fraction, decimal, and percent form. So I'll give you one of the 3, you fill in the other 2. Okay, in your first example, I'll give you the fraction 1/8. You tell me its decimal and percent. And in the second one, the decimal is 0.28. You tell me the fraction and the percent. Okay? Good luck.